Welcome everyone to the Billy Slater Podcast. Boy, what an exciting time of the year. One round to go and we're into the finals. We're here, as always, thanks to Tab. And boy, Billy, there's plenty to talk about today.
Can you believe that we're only a week away from the finals? It's such an exciting time of the year. I reckon the hottest topic and the biggest contributing factor right now, and it was this weekend and it's going into the weekend coming, is teams resting players. And there's a few teams that have already rested some players and have felt, the result from that. And there's some teams that are going to be resting players this weekend. And who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Why are they going to rest players? Why shouldn't they rest players? We'll dive into that as the program goes on, Salty. But what else are we going to talk about?
Yeah, we'll talk about the Raiders claiming a minor premiership. Well done to Ricky's men. A couple of these teams too, down the bottom half of the ladder, continue to produce, including Jason Riles and the Parramatta Eels. Another terrific win for them over the weekend. There were some high-scoring Queensland derbies as well to look back on. But let's get right into it, Billy, because, as you said, the business end of the season is it's well and truly upon us. One round to go, and we still don't know the makeup of the top four, and we still don't know the final makeup of the top eight either.
Yeah, well, mathematically, there's 10 teams that can finish in the top eight. There's 6 teams that can finish in the top four. 1, 2, 3 are locked in. That fourth position is up for grabs. There's 3 teams fighting for that. That's the Broncos, the Sharks, and the Warriors. And that 8th position, that's going to come down to the Roosters, who've got a massive game this Friday night against South Sydney. If they beat South Sydney, they will finish in 8th position. If they don't, they leave the door ajar for probably the Dolphins. The Manly Sea Eagles can get on the same points as the Roosters, but they have a dismal for and against. So I think that 8th spot is between the Roosters and the Dolphins, and it'll all come down to that Friday night match, which we've got on Channel 9 against South Sydney, arch rivals. We're expecting Cody Walker to be back. We're expecting Latrell Mitchell to be back, and possibly Cam Murray. So we'll have to wait till tomorrow afternoon when those teams come out. But boy, wouldn't South Sydney like to just put one over their arch rival in the Roosters and kick them out of the competition? But the way that the Roosters are playing, they're going to take some beating.
Yeah, they certainly will, but, oh boy, form goes out the window when it comes to that derby, that's for sure. And South rested off the bye, and they're coming off the back of a few wins in a row prior to that bye as well. So there's certainly a pulse in the Dolphins season. They'll be watching that game intently. And, of course, rugby league, we've got all these storylines. Wayne Bennett, inaugural Dolphins coach, he can have a big say on getting his old team into the finals.
What a present. What a present he could give to his old team that he helped set up, and the inaugural coach for the first 2 years. And they're relying on South Sydney to win on Friday night to give themselves a chance to play in the finals. Obviously they've still got to do their job, and they play on Sunday afternoon against the Canberra Raiders, who have been reported to. Ricky Stewart said already he's going to rest players, whether it's 3 or 4 or whether it's 8 or 9. I think it'll be the latter. I think he'll go hard and rest as many players as possible, pretty much forfeit this game, and then get his team cherry ripe for that first week of the finals. And why don't we jump into that? Because that's a big talking point. That is a huge talking point right now. Should we rest players leading into the finals, or should it be a genuine competition and everyone play your full strength side? And I believe you earn the right to rest players. I believe if you're in a position to give yourself a chance to win the competition, you give yourself every chance. And if that's resting players and that's freshening them up, it's a 27-week competition. It's pre-season before that. You've got a State of Origin series in the middle of it. It is a grueling season, and I think you've got to give yourself every chance by getting your players in the best mental and physical shape possible to attack this final series. And Ricky Stewart's done a great job with the Canberra Raiders to get them to the minor premiership, and congratulations to the Raiders. I think it's the first minor premiership in 35 years. That's a wonderful achievement, but no one will remember that. they'll all remember who the premiers are of 2025. And unfortunately for some teams, it's going to hurt them, and for some teams it's going to benefit them. So you look at the Roosters. The Melbourne Storm rested a handful of players last weekend, and the Roosters got the benefit from that. Unfortunately, the Dolphins didn't. So they might get the benefit this week. It goes in roundabouts.
It does, and I agree with you coming from a fan's point of view, Billy, because those teams that do rest players, as you say, they earn the right and they rest for various reasons, and that's for within the four walls of each footy club to work out why that they go about making those sort of decisions. We'll come up with maybe a scenario soon in how it can be stopped. There's something I will throw up at you, but just look at some of these teams now. So you go to Thursday night first up. Melbourne, given what happened against the Roosters, as you've said there with that they've come off the loss. Now, you know Melbourne intimately. Will Craig Bellamy go, well, I might have wanted to rest players, but hey, we need to sharpen up now ahead of the final. So he already has rested a couple. Could we see maybe two or three who played on last week have a rest this week?
I'd be very surprised, Salty. I think Melbourne will be full strength come Thursday night. So, Well, I think they'll be named to full strength come tomorrow afternoon when teams come out on NRL.com. So I would be very surprised. I think Craig Bellamy made a decision last week to go, right, we're choosing round 26 to give some players a rest. I think Josh King. Max King. Josh King, Nick Meaney, Xavier Coates. Tui Kamikamica was out with a concussion. Harry Grant was out suspended. Jerome Hughes was out injured. Jack Howarth was out injured. There was a Eli Katoa was rested. That's 3/4 of your team out rested. And I thought they did a great job in the first half. I thought they played really controlled. The Roosters were way too good in the second half, and it all came from their right edge with Nwanganita-Wazi on that side. James Tedesco was brilliant. Robert Toyer was great. And they just lacked that continuity in defence, the Melbourne Storm. I think we'll see that continuity in defence this week against the Broncos, and this will be the Broncos' biggest test. If the Broncos beat the Melbourne Storm on Thursday night, they finish in the top four, and we all know what sort of advantage that is come the semi-finals, the top four in the semi-finals. So if they finish fourth, they'll be going down to Canberra and playing Canberra week one of the finals. If they finish fifth, it's sudden death football for the Broncos. So it's a huge game this Thursday night. But I think the Melbourne Storm will be looking for momentum now. They've rested their players, starting to get a few back. I wouldn't be surprised if Jerome Hughes is named tomorrow and given every chance to play in that blockbuster game on Thursday night. And then Harry Grant will be back week one of the finals. Melbourne haven't had their full team on the field, especially in their key positions, in their spine. They haven't had the full team on the field, since midway through the year. So we haven't seen the best of them. And Craig Bellamy, he's doing everything possible to find their best football at the right time of the year.
Yeah, most certainly. Let's go down the list then to another team. We've touched on the Raiders in resting. We've touched on now Melbourne. Here's an interesting one, Billy. The Bulldogs. What do they do here this week? Because there would be some concerns about their attack. And I know Phil Gould said, we were talking about this in commentary over the weekend, and he made a point not specifically talking about the Bulldogs, but he may well have had them in mind that, some teams, it's more the defence they've got to get right. We know that defence wins games this time of the year, but what... in your mind, if you're Cameron Ciraldo, what are you doing this week with your lineup for the Sharks on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think they're a team that needs to play. I really think that they're a team that needs to play. Like we saw Penrith rest a whole heap of players on the weekend, and the Bulldogs got over the top of them. It wasn't convincing, but they got over the top of them. The 2 weeks prior to that, the Bulldogs had lost. They lost against the Melbourne Storm and the Roosters, pretty convincingly against the Roosters, and then it was a 6-point ball game against the Melbourne Storm. So I really think that they need to play. They've got a new dummy half pretty much, and they've got a new number 7. So the more football that they all play together, you would think the better that they're going to get. I don't think that they're pushing genuinely for premiership favouritism right now. So they've got to try and find that. They've got to try and find their best football. To be honest, I probably don't. I don't think they're playing as good as they were playing midway through the year. The one thing that they do have on their side is they have the tag of the best defensive team in the competition. Mm. So no one has conceded less points than the Bulldogs. So that holds weight in September, and that's the one thing that's on their side. But they're going to come up against the Melbourne Storm in the first semi-final down in Melbourne, and they need to find some momentum going into that game. So I think I'd be playing as many players as possible and building that continuity and building those combinations within the footy team.
Yeah, so that's the one on Saturday night. I'm sure that if you talk to anyone from the Sharks, they'd be just saying, I think the Bulldogs should rest everybody because that's their opponents this week. Could be a huge game on Saturday night. Well, I think it already is anyway because it's both teams will be playing finals, but could be a fair bit of incentive here for the Sharks, Billy, because they'll know their fate come Saturday night. If Brisbane lose on Thursday night and the Warriors go down to Manly, then on the early game on Friday night, then the Sharks will be playing for a top 4 spot.
Be interesting what Craig Fitzgibbon does there because they're a team in a bit of form. You know, they've really lent into their attack, and their attack is starting to come together. And if they can't move down the ladder or up the ladder, I wouldn't be surprised if they rest a couple of players as well. It is a balancing act because you want that momentum going into September and going into that first final, although we're already in September, but going into that first final. But you also want to have your best players on the field. And we know how tough our game is. And, with the HIAs, and it only takes one incident and all of a sudden your season can get turned upside down. You have a look at the Broncos, with Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds. And, that sort of situation is hovering inside coaches' minds. But at the same time, you can't tiptoe around all this stuff. You've got to be playing good footy. It doesn't matter if you just turn up and you're not playing good footy, you won't be there long. So, it is a balancing act, and it's a tough decision for some of these coaches.
Just on the Sharks, and they saw KL Iro come back into the team yesterday, and my understanding is, Billy, that when teams are announced tomorrow that Jesse Ramian will be named, and that their centres just mean so much to them. Well, their back line is so dynamic, but Jesse Ramian, sometimes you don't realise how much you miss someone until they're not there.
Yeah, absolutely. They're starting to get their troops back and nearly get full strength. Obviously, they'll be without their captain in Cam McInnes. He's out for the season, and he's a huge loss. He's one of those players that you really lean on in semi-finals footy, and I just spoke about the defensive side of the game that the Bulldogs bring. Well, Cam McInnes, he lays the standard for that. But their outside backs are hugely important for them. You've got Ronaldo and Katoa on the other side. They make so many metres, and then their centres come in, and Iro and Jesse Ramian. And so, they're starting to find their form, the Sharks, and they're one of those teams that have still got to prove themselves at this time of the year to take that next step up to potentially make that grand final. And they'll be hoping on Thursday night the Melbourne Storm can get the job done over the Broncos, and that gives them a chance to jump into that top 4, because if they can make that top 4, it just gives them that all-important second chance. And they've got the better for and against to the Warriors, and if they can get the job done against the Bulldogs and then the Storm beat the Broncos, they will finish in that 4th position.
Yeah, that's why this weekend is going to be so interesting. And you talked, Billy, about the resting of players, and we will get on to some of the games from over the weekend, but it is, as you said, a hot topic in rugby league. Does the NRL take a leaf out of what the AFL does and have a week's break between the final round of the season and then the finals, or some have even suggested that wildcard weekend, so teams 7, 8, 9, 10 play off for the last 2 spots in the 8, while the top 6 are awarded with a week off. Do we keep it as is? What's your take?
I think we keep it as is, Salty. If you played 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, could you imagine finishing 7th? And say you've won 3 or 4 more games than 10th, all of a sudden you're categorised in the same class as 10th, and you given so there's no incentive to finish 7th. So I honestly think it's a top 8. What's going on now is just a part of the theatre. It's a part of the game. If you're whinging about playing against a team or your opposition playing against a team that's under strength, well, win more games early in the season. You've got 27 weeks to do it. Like we're trying to make situations up for teams that aren't good enough to be in the finals. So if you're good enough to be there, you're there, and you've put yourself in the position. If you're not good enough to be there, that's on you, and that's on your club and your performances through nearly a 30-week period. Like if we want to put in a week off period, well, that's just extending our competition. Our competition is already way too long. I think we need to reduce it rather than extend it.
And the other thing too is this happens in sports all around the world. It happens, say, in NBA, if a team has played 3 games in quick succession, maybe for the 4th in that week, that players will be left out. It happens in European football. You play a big game in the Premier League on a weekend, and FA Cup game during the week will roll the kids out. So it happens all over the world.
Yeah, and you look at the Penrith Panthers, they rested their whole Origin squad. So they had about 5 or 6 play Origin over in Perth, and then they didn't take them to Auckland. To be honest, I don't even think they could have got there. But they played a whole heap of kids, and that was a real turning point of their season. Like they went on a big run after that, and that brings a whole club together. That brings a squad together. It makes the players that get an opportunity and perform in that footy team feel a part of the whole season. That can do wonders for them, and they're a team that have really benefited from their full squad. They had a lot of experience leave, not just this year, but the last 3 or 4 years, and they've handled it excellent. They've done a great job. So, I just think you leave it as is. It's a great talking point. It's a lot of theatre around this time of the year, and if you have the option to rest players, that just means you've earned that option.
Now, one of the teams we have spoken about who well and truly have earned that right, and well done to Ricky Stewart and everyone involved at the Canberra Raiders. They took out the minor premiership. It was fitting that it occurred at GIO Stadium on the weekend, and we had the presentation afterwards. Very proud Canberra coach there, and as he should be, Billy. He's done a wonderful job with a team that many just looked down upon at the start of the year, but they've kept it going right throughout the season. Well done to them. Absolutely.
And they've found their own style, and you can tell, and I've said this a number of times this year, you can tell they're a really tight group. There's a great camaraderie within the Canberra Raiders at the moment. It feels a really good culture, and they've given themselves every chance to give this competition a shake. They've finished first. They'll play their first final at home. If they so happen to win that final, then they'll get a week off into a home preliminary final. That is the best path possible to a grand final and a premiership. So they've earned that right. They've given them the best opportunity, and they had to travel to Vegas at the start of the year. They went all the way over there at the start of the year, and had to handle that. And Ricky Stewart and his coaches, he's brought on some of these young stars, like Ethan Strange has had a great season. Young Owen Paddy on the bench. And then because of these young stars, it's really rejuvenated some of the older players. I think Tom Starling's playing as good as I've ever seen him play. He's really physical in defence, and he's got a young kid, Owen Paddy, nipping at his heels. And Now, not that there's any fractures within that. That's just competition for spots. They're all playing for the one team. They're all playing selfless for the footy team, but it just pushes you and spurs you on. And when your biggest competitors are within your own club, that's when it's really competitive, and that's when you push each other and your standards rise, and they start playing the footy that they're playing consistently. So, there's a good feel around Canberra at the moment. Like I said last week, they've got some key position players that haven't got the job done at this time of the year just yet, and they haven't played representative football just yet. But that's what's in front of them, and they've given themselves an opportunity to go and get that experience now in their key positions and go and get the job done.
Billy, a couple of players in their team. Well, one, Matt Timoko. I thought he's had a tremendous season, but he's had a tremendous few seasons, hasn't he? And he's another one of these players that has just been able to put in for the team and so hard to handle. And I thought on the weekend in a game where the Tigers, once again, early on, especially through everything at the Raiders, he came up with some terrific runs. And that's been a feature, hasn't it? If it wasn't him last week, others have put their hand up in weeks before to say, hey, give it to me, I'll get us out of trouble. Sign of a very good team.
They've got some really powerful outside backs. I think Seb Chris has been doing a great job. Simi Sasangi has really come on. It doesn't matter whether he comes on and plays in the middle, on the edge, he plays in the centres. Scored a crucial try last week off Ethan Strange. He's a wonderful player. And then Jed Stewart, he's doing a great job at the back. Pretty much won them the game last week, taking that ball and giving it to Ethan Strange. Kyo Weeks. They're going to miss Xavier Savage. He's probably one guy that's been there all season. It looks like he's out for the season with a shoulder injury. He's certainly going to be missed through the finals, but that's one thing that the Raiders have had a bit of luck with this year is injuries. They haven't had a whole heap of injuries. It's pretty much roll out the same 17 each week and getting the job done. So fingers crossed that can stay on track for them, and they're going to take some beating because, like I said, they've got the favoritism run or favourable run, and then they're playing this really strong, unorthodox style of footy that you're going to have to be right on your game to get over the top of.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch the Raiders through September. That's for sure. Tell you what was fun. Might not have been fun if your scoreboard attended in Townsville or Suncorp Stadium over the weekend. The two Queensland derbies, Billy, we saw them both on 9 over the weekend, and points were everywhere. Everyone was scoring tries. First up, the game on Saturday night in Townsville, the Broncos got the job done. I thought it was an entertaining night of football. We knew, didn't we, going into it, that the Cowboys were just going to throw everything at this one. They had so much to play for despite being out of finals contention. Yeah, no, it was a brilliant game. I really enjoyed both of these games and really entertaining. 30 points to 36 in the game on Sunday and 38 to 30 in the game up there in Townsville. And yeah, I thought the Cowboys, had a really good chance to get over the top of the Broncos, given it was their last game. They've got the bye next round, so their season's done. And it's strange to feel that a footy team is done for the year now. So you're getting close to the end of the season when teams are starting to finish, and then this week there's going to be another 7 teams finish their season and go on holidays. So we're pretty close there, but it was a great game. I thought Reece Walsh, he's been so good over the last 3 or 4 weeks since they've had those injuries to Ezra Mam and Selwyn Cobbo, Adam Reynolds. He's really stood up and he's really matured as well. He's responsible for their results at the moment, and they're getting the right result because of him. I think Gemmet Shibazaki's doing great. He picked up a couple of tries. They're a footy team that have just handled this adversity really well, and in a way they've all lifted, which I'm sure Michael Maguire would be really happy with, because it was
it was doom and gloom there for a while when their captain went down in Adam Reynolds, Ezra Mam, and everyone was thinking that the season was over, but they got on with things and they put themselves in a position, because there was a period of time there where they could have just fallen out of the 8 and they would be on holidays next week. But they put themselves in a position, they're playing finals, and they could potentially play semi-finals if they beat the Melbourne Storm on Thursday night. Oh, sorry, Billy, in the top 4.
In the top 4, yeah. Billy, Brisbane's bench, I wax lyrical all the time about Kobe Hetherington, but Ben Tulty has been tremendous for them. Goes to show, give a guy an opportunity, and he's just taken it with both hands. And an important piece to Brisbane's forward puzzle came back on the weekend in Piakura, Brendan Piakura coming back here into the team. And he had some nice touches, crucial moments on Saturday night. And the Brisbane's bench, I think, is just starting to take shape as well, particularly now with Piakura coming in.
Yeah, I've got a really high opinion of Brendan Piakura. I don't think we've seen anywhere near the best of Brendan. I think we've seen glimpses of what he can do, but consistently, I think he's a top line back rower. He's got a lot of class about him. Great defender. Ben Tulty and Kobe Hetherington, their bench is doing an outstanding job. They're working class players, and they go out and they do all those little things in the game that sometimes go unnoticed, but I'm sure they get appreciated within their footy team. Kobe Hetherington's leg speed when he comes on the field is noticeable, because they've got big guys like Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan. Corey Jensen's doing a great job. He's one of those toilers in the middle that gets through all that work and allows Payne and Paddy to shine. But yeah, Kobe Hetherington, his leg speed when he comes on the field. Ben Tulty, he's been getting over the line a fair bit lately as well. And in defence, they just work so hard for their footy team. So they're doing a good job. Katoni Staggs is another key guy for them. With a little bit of spark that's been taken out of the footy team with Ezra Mam, he's really lifted, and he creates those little opportunities along with obviously Reece Walsh. So they're still a very dangerous footy team, and at their best, they can put it to any side in this competition. So defensively, it'll be their Achilles heel. Conceding 30 points to the Cowboys up there, I think going into semi-finals, that's the thing that they need to sharpen up on. They can score points. They've got plenty of points in their footy team, and they can score them from anywhere. And it usually comes around Reece Walsh, but it's their defensive side of the game that I'm sure their coaching staff will be looking to sharpen up on.
Yeah, most definitely. You mentioned the other Queensland derby, and the Dolphins have kept their season alive. It still has a pulse heading into this week. And should, as we spoke about earlier, South Sydney beat the Roosters, Dolphins could be playing a depleted Canberra team. And Billy, it looks as though Herbie Farnworth will be back in the lineup for Sunday's game against the Raiders. Wow,
what an inclusion. I've got to give Christian Wolf a rap here. Would have been a really tough decision to move Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow to the centres and put Trey Fuller, coming back from injury, playing reserve grade, into a key position like fullback, but he was outstanding. Trey Fuller was absolutely a spark for the Dolphins on the weekend, and set up a couple of tries. He played so courageous. He set up 2 tries. He scored one himself. Ran for over 200 metres, and at the same time, the hammer was still in the game. They still had an ability to bring the hammer into the game, and a lot of it was through Trey Fuller. Hammer's got a great ability to read play and anticipate line breaks, and Trey Fuller went straight through the middle, and the hammer was on his left-hand side. I think Christian Wolf has done a great job, and it's been through necessity. Obviously, the hammer's the number one fullback. But with all the injuries to their outside backs, the injuries that they've had throughout the year, he's through necessity had to make this decision, and that is the spot that Herbie Farnworth plays in on that left hand side. So it'll be interesting what Christian Wolf does this week if Herbie's fit. Does he keep Hammer there, or does he move Hammer back to fullback and play Herbie in the centres? Because Trey Fuller was if not their best player, he was one of their top 3 players on the weekend. He was such a spark for the Dolphins, and the Titans fought back. And if Trey's not there, they mightn't have got the job done.
And the other player too, now Fahu, the young winger. Haven't they found one there in the second half of the season?
Yeah, he looks a player, doesn't he? He's really sharp on his feet. He's quick, great agility, and yeah, he looks like he's got a bright future. So, and you think of the wingers that they've got, like Bostock, he's out for the year, and he was having a tremendous season. So, yeah, no, they've got some players there. They've got a team, the Dolphins. They've had a really tough run of injury. You think Flegler, there's supposed to be some good signs about Thomas Flegler potentially coming back next year. They'll get their captain and Tom Gilbert back. So Max Plath is another guy that's really come on, that they've been without through most of the year. They get all their players back on deck, and they're going to be a really strong, not just footy team, but a full squad. We just spoke about the squad stuff and how that can really lift your standards and create that competitiveness in your footy team. I think they're a team on the rise next year.
We've seen teams, Billy, over the years, haven't we, that have had a lot of injuries and players probably getting more games ahead of time, and then they've reaped the benefits of it moving forward. Penrith, when they won the comp in 2003, that happened. A lot of injuries, young players got a run, and then all of a sudden they win a premiership in 2000 and 2003 with these young guys that got games ahead of time. And you look at the Dolphins with the likes of whether it be Kurt Donahue, Allblix, Taufa. These guys are Oren Keeley is another player I think deserves a mention. All of a sudden, these guys now they know what it takes to play in the NRL, and wait till they get all those other guys back.
Yeah, they're building that experience and that ability to play week on week in the NRL. The other guy that's really going to benefit from all these chopping and changing is Isaiah Katoa, the young halfback. He's obviously had to deal with so many disruptions within his footy team. He's been the one constant that's been there the whole time. So having different players with different strengths and changing those things throughout, from week to week, to be honest, he's going to benefit from being able to adjust to that. He's such a good player, and he just seems so mature beyond his years that I think he's going to benefit from a season like this. Like, they're not done yet. They're definitely not done yet. They could potentially be playing finals in a fortnight's time. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they're going to benefit in the long run from having these injuries, and when everyone comes back and creates that competition for spots and they get that continuity within their footy team and some of the experience like Flegler and like Gilbert, you get Herbie Farnworth back, Max Plath, they're going to be a tough footy team to play against, and their young halfback is building all that experience and that adversity that they're going through now. That's going to benefit him as well.
Yeah, most certainly. All right, we look forward to seeing what happens with the Dolphins next week. Now, Daly Cherry Evans, Billy, he was tremendous again on Saturday for Manly and keeping their season alive, albeit only just. But, hey, they've had a couple of good weeks, the Seagulls, and particularly DCE. They've
scored nearly 100 points in the last 2 weeks. That's... off the back of Daly playing his 350th game, not on the weekend before against the Dolphins. They scored 58 points on that occasion, and then they put 40 points on the Dragons on the weekend. So, they've turned it around a little bit. To be honest, I think it's a little bit too late. I don't think that they'll play finals, although they can finish on the same competition points as the Dolphins and the Roosters. They're 80 points behind on the for and against to the Roosters, and they're 67 points behind the Dolphins. So, yeah, look, I don't think that they'll play finals. They would have to win by 100 and have results go their way. But, like I said, they've been putting points on the board, so who knows? They might just go after it.
I did quote Dumb and Dumber yesterday in the coverage. Lloyd Christmas said, telling me there's a chance. Even he'd realised there's not much of a chance there for the Seagulls.
Yeah, but, at the end of the day, you
funny
just got to
game,
go
rugby
and
league.
play. You just got to go and play. So, yeah, unfortunately for the Seagulls, they're probably going to get pipped at the post. But again, you look back through the 27 rounds and you can only blame yourself for the position that you are on the ladder, and they just haven't been good enough this year.
All right, this is the Billy Slater Podcast, and we do it all thanks to Tab.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, Vegas flying, turbo try-scoring, origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Billy M Medal time on the Billy Slater Podcast. We do this each week where Billy will pick his best team from the latest round and the best player. Once again, thanks to the team at Tab. So, Billy, your best team performance from round 26.
Yeah, I can't go past the team that's sitting on top of the ladder, and that's the minor premiers for the first time in 35 years. The Raiders, the Canberra Raiders. What a wonderful achievement. And there were plenty of people that had question marks over the Raiders at the start of the year, and to be fair, I probably was one of them. Like, you look at their key positions and they're unproven. You look at some of the other key positions and, in terms of reputation, they're probably a little bit behind there. But I'll tell you what they've done. They've elevated their reputation. Jamal Fogarty is an incredible halfback that really gives his team what they need. They have an even spread of contribution throughout the footy game. You look at their outside backs, they all do a great job. Their back rowers, their middle forwards, Tarpanay and Papali'i, who's just earned an extension. He was going over to the Super League halfway through the year, Big Papa, and now he's earned an extension to stay in the NRL. I think that's a great call, because he gives that footy team so much, and I know the calmness and confidence that he does bring to a footy team, and Canberra have acknowledged that and given him one more year, and I think that's a great thing. I think Big Papa should finish his career in the green jersey, and they're all defending really well. That's the other thing they're doing. They're all buying into the team ethos. Ricky Stewart's done a great job. So I can't go past the minor premiers, and if for a club that hasn't won a minor premiership since their coach was there, 30-odd years ago, they're the team of the week.
Now, your best player of the week, Billy, and there's a few contenders here. There was some...
and throw some up, Salty. Give me a handful. Who you like?
Well, the player we spoke about earlier, Daly Cherry Evans, was brilliant. Isaiah Iongi
Reece Walsh.
Impressed. Reece Walsh, exactly. Trey Fuller, I think, maybe deserves...
Trey Fuller, he needs a mention. The young guy that you just mentioned, he is a genuine star, Isaiah Iongi. What a call from Jason Riles to part ways with Clint Gutherson, their captain, who has played exactly how he played. He played this year exactly how he played at Parramatta. You know what you're going to get with Clint Gutherson. That's a courageous call to go, we need to move this club forward. And this is nothing against Clint Gutherson. I have great respect for him, and I acknowledge everything that he brings to a footy team. But Isaiah Iongi is a star for the next 10, 15 years. And he has been the most consistent player at Parramatta. He had to overcome a hand injury or wrist injury this year, and he is doing some stuff on the footy field that not many players can do. So he definitely needs a mention. But you haven't mentioned the winner.
I know. I know.
Is that because you can't say his name?
No, I certainly can. Mark Nawanganitawaze, hey?
Mark Nawanganitawaze. And 4 tries. He probably could have had 5, but and Bobby Toyer, he stole one off him at the end there, faking an injury. He was down with an injury, so Mark went into his position. But I got the luxury to interview Mark Nawanganitawaze after the game on the panel on the Channel 9 desk, and he is such a good fella. He's a humble guy. He's really enjoying himself at the moment, and they're playing to his strengths. Once they worked out that the Melbourne Storm had a bit of a deficiency and a lack of continuity on that edge, Xavier Coates had been rested, so there was a bit of a lack of continuity within the defensive side. They just kept going there. He scored 4 tries. Bobby Toyer scored 1. Tedesco scored 1 down there. So doesn't matter whether he has an inch to work with, whether he has to jump over the top, or whether he has to throw a flick pass back on the inside. He's got all the tricks in the books, and he is one athletic human. He is a big man. Did you see that photo of him sitting on one of the Melbourne Storm players' shoulders, hitting that ball back?
Yeah.
He was dead set 2 meters in the air. Like, he's unbelievable. I said it during the call that, like, without doubt, he's going to be wearing a different coloured jersey in the near future. Probably a couple. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to be coaching against one of those jerseys. So I just love watching him play. I love his attitude towards the game, and he's heavily involved. The Roosters are playing to their strengths at the moment.
I'm sure he kicked a footy on the beach on a family holiday on the Gold Coast or Sunshine Coast when he was a youngster, Billy. Surely.
He did say, I asked him what his nationality was. He said his father's Fijian and his mother's Italian-Australian. So I did say that Fiji was in Queensland on low tide. So, but no, I think he's a little bit unsure about his national sort of selections at the moment, which he probably needs to think about, because that's right on the cusp of his career at the moment. It's probably accelerated a little bit quicker than he thought, but he would be right in the conversations, whether it be for Australia at the end of this year or whether it would be for Fiji, because both nations will be playing, and I dare say that he would be in the conversation for both of those nations.
Well, I've got to say that he's quickly turned into one of those players, hasn't he? I know when fans, particularly Roosters fans, and I think even neutrals, when they see him get the ball, they go up. That happens very few players over the years. You're one of those players that, when you touch the ball, the fans get ready. Is something going to happen here? I know myself as a commentator. Oh, Nawanganitawaze's got it. What's going to happen here? He heightens the anticipation, which is a rare feat for a player to have, particularly someone so new to the game. It's been just sensational to watch Nawanganitawaze this year.
Yeah, I know my coach was a little bit nervous when I got the ball most of the time. He was like, "Oh, what's he going to do?" But you're right, he is just one of those players, and he had about a foot of room when he got the ball, and most players 9 times out of 10 would have went back on the inside, and he took Kane Bradley on the outside, and he actually scored with ease. That's the confidence that he's playing with at the moment. And there was another one last week where he threw a flick pass back on the inside. I think Robert Toyer ended up scoring the try, but it was like a Benji Marshall flick pass, but it went for about 10 metres. And it hit him on the chest. Like this is the sort of skill that he has, and there's no surprise that he's the player of the week this week.
Yeah, just a magical week for Mark Nawanganitawaze with his 4 tries. That is the Billy M medal, thanks to Tab. The NRL season is here. For the best time in sport, Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
All right, listener questions time. And as always, coming in from left field, Christian says, do you think it's time the NRL considered awarding a competition point to teams that lose in Golden Point? At the moment, a side can go toe-to-toe with their opponent for 80 minutes, only to leave with nothing. It feels a bit harsh. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Billy, before you answer, this has been brought up before, and it's important to point, you can't have it, a team gets 2 and then 1. You'd have to change the whole point structure overall if you were to go down that path. But what's your thoughts on Christian's question?
Well, you see how important that 1 point is. You know, the Panthers have picked up 1 point with a draw this year, and it's just given them that little buffer. That was obviously a draw after the Golden Point timing. What do we want to do? Do we want to start giving points for participation? Do we? That's where we're at. Are we giving a participation point? Sorry, Christian, but I'm not in that. You either win or you lose, and if you're not good enough to earn that, well, you don't deserve the point. So I'm good with the system as it stands. I do love Golden Point. It's an exciting, prospect when it gets to about 6 or 7 minutes in the game's level, or even when the game is 24-30. You think, okay, well, if this team scores now, we might be going to the Golden Point. So it is an exciting part of the game, and I think it adds to the theatre. I'd rather keep it the way it is. No participation point.
I'm with you, Billy, because we saw in the NRLW over the weekend there were 2 Golden Point games, and the Raiders, rightfully celebrating their 1 point win over the Tigers, and the Sharks scored a try right on full time, got the conversion, and then beat the Knights in Golden Point, and that's the way it is, isn't it? Well done to the Sharks. They got that win. The Raiders on Saturday got theirs in the NRLW, and they're the most recent examples of Golden Point.
If that's the case, then the Cowboys wouldn't have won a comp. JT wouldn't have a statue. Hey, that was in Golden Point. Well, we only give half a premiership. You can't have that.
That should have been extra time.
Hey, there you go.
Grand final, anyway. Luke's got one. Thank you, Christian, by the way. But Luke, g'day, Billy. The Eels have won their last 3 games, including a huge upset over the Warriors. While they didn't make the finals, what does their end-of-season form say about the club, and how important is it for them to carry this momentum into next season? Something we have spoken about in recent weeks.
Yeah, it gives them something to celebrate. That's what it does do. All the hard work that they've been putting in through the preseason, key injuries have certainly hurt the Parramatta Eels going through this redevelopment stage. And it just gives them some stuff to celebrate. They've won 3 of their last 4 now, the Eels, and I think they're doing things now that I thought they would be doing in the first half of the year. So it's a little bit later than I thought, but given the injuries, I can understand it. I think they're coached extremely well, and they're starting to implement all of these coaching fundamentals that Jason Rolls is bringing into the club. They've unearthed some great young stars. I think the young dummy half's a good player, Riley Smith. The fullback, I've spoken about him. Even young Papali, playing in the 6 jersey. Big call to put Dylan Brown out in the centres and leave him out of the team. And so, he's made some big moves, Jason Rolls, and I think it's about creating that momentum going into their pre-season and giving them something to chase. They know their footy that they can chase now, and they've had a taste of it. They've been able to celebrate it, and they'll be able to go and lean into that in the pre-season.
All right, good question there. Luke, thank you very much for it. If you do have a question for the Billy Slater Podcast, then you can simply email us, billyslaterpodcast@9.com.au, billyslaterpodcast@9.com.au. Time now for our Ampol Power Surge this week. Billy, you've got to pick the top 3 coaches of the year. In doing so, stick to the NRL, please. Leave out the Origin Series winning coach, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll try. I'll
put him in for you.
Yeah, I'm going to give an honourable mention here that's not in the top 3, and that's Cameron Ciraldo. When you have the best defence in the competition, that's coaching. That's coaching. Obviously, individual tackles and individual players towards that defence is important, but defence is systems. It's systematic, and conceding the least amount of points in the competition, Cameron Ciraldo has done a wonderful job there over a couple of seasons now. That's a key ingredient to be successful in September, is actually defending well. And the Panthers have been the best over the last 4 years. Now the Bulldogs are. So he's done a wonderful job. Unfortunately, he's not in my top 3, but I need to give him an honourable mention. Number 1 is Ricky Stewart. To take the Raiders from where they were, and with a lot of people thinking that this squad probably can't do what they've done this year, that's coaching as well. And he's done a wonderful job to do that. Number 2, Craig Bellamy. We can fall into the trap of just going, Melbourne are in the top 4, they're in the top 2. You know, that's where they should be. They've been there for 20 years. Like that's coaching. It's not easy to stay there. And Craig Bellamy has done a wonderful job, you know, to get his team in the position that they are on the ladder. And the third one is not even in the top 4, not even vying for the top 4 spot. And that's Ivan Cleary. I just think the way Ivan Cleary, and in particular around those tough periods at the start of the year, that he stuck with that left edge. Left edge. With Blaze Talangi, Casey McLean, and young Jenkins on the wing. Those 3 players, he helped coach, he developed through all their deficiencies, through all their errors that they were making in defence, and they were actually letting the team down. But he stuck with them because he could see where they were going and what he could do for them and what they could do for him and the team in return. And they're starting to get that reward. That's wonderful coaching, to be able to rejuvenate pretty much an edge of your footy team, and you bring in a whole heap of young guys into a really successful footy team. But that edge had so many deficiencies in it at the start of the year, and he stuck with them, and he coached them, and he developed them. He's in the top 3 as well.
All right, some great coaching performances this year. That is for sure, and a worthy top 3 there for our Ampol Power Surge. Whether you're cheering on from the sidelines or from the living room, Ampol has got your back on and off the field. Proud to power Australia's own sporting nation. All right, now we head into round 27. How far down the list, Billy, do we have to look to find a blockbuster in the final round?
Where do
Not
we
too
start?
Far.
The whole lot.
Thursday.
The whole lot. And whether it's resting players and teams can make the top 8, teams can make the top 4, it starts on Thursday night. Thursday night is a key ingredient to how this final series will take shape. And if the Broncos can beat the Storm, which they have struggled to do for a long period of time, the record that the Melbourne Storm have against the Broncos is superior, and if they can do that, they will finish in the top 4, which will give them that second chance. If they can't, they'll be playing sudden death football, and they'll open the door for the Sharks and the Warriors to slide into that top 4 spot. So Melbourne Storm, they'll be looking for a point to prove. I don't think any Melbourne Storm team has ever conceded 40 points in a half of footy, and I could imagine what Craig Bellamy is going to be like this week. They won't be playing for nothing this week, the Melbourne Storm. They'll be playing for performance, they'll be playing for momentum, and they'll be charging into that top 8. And like I said before, it wouldn't surprise me if Jerome Hughes is named somewhere in that 20... Is it 23 they name, or 22?
22 this week.
22. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he's named somewhere in that 22-man squad tomorrow afternoon.
All right, well, we look forward to that one. And then we go from a blockbuster on Thursday night to the oldest derby in the NRL, the oldest rivalry in the NRL, Roosters v South Sydney. This is going to be a special clash. And as you said right at the top, Billy, the Rabbitohs will have nothing more to just say to the Roosters. Not this year, boys. You're not playing finals.
And one Rabbitoh in particular, and his name is?
Latrell Mitchell.
Latrell Mitchell, the former Rooster. He'll be back from injury for sure. Who do you like in this one, Salty?
Flip the coin. South Sydney.
Yeah, I think
they're on a roll.
I think they've got a real chance. What have they won? 3 in a row. They've just had the bye. And we've stopped talking about Alex Johnston breaking this all-time try-scoring record. Can the Rabbitohs finish on an all-time high that's possible, given the situation? Obviously, they're not playing finals, but can they knock the Roosters out of the final series? Can Alex Johnston break the all-time try-scoring record? What's he need? 3. So 2 to level?
3 to break it, yep.
2 to level, 3 to break it. Ooh, you get Latrell and Cody Walker firing on that left-hand side of the field, and that's Marky Mark's side. That's Nwanga Nitawazi, Robert Toya, who have been in great form defensively. Like Robert Toya he's only 21 years old, but he is one of the best defensive centres in the game. You watch his movements in the game and how he keeps his feet underneath him and his ability to slide, coming up against probably the best left edge attack. Like that's going to be something to watch. So if they get it right, maybe AJ just gets that record this week.
Well, who knows? All we know is it's going to be great viewing on 9 on
We've
on
spoken
Friday
about
night.
2 games. There's some great games this weekend.
Aren't there? What? Saturday night, Bulldogs v Sharks.
Yep.
Even the last game of the round, the Eels finishing it off with the Knights. That'll be great. There's just so much to look forward to, Billy. And I know I'm going to be seeing you on Thursday night at Suncorp Stadium. We'll be sitting in the commentary box alongside Cameron Smith. I cannot wait for this one.
I can't wait either. I can't wait for Reece Walsh to go and attack the game. Katoni Staggs, and then the Melbourne Storm up against Munster, Pappenhausen. Like I said, Jerome Hughes. There will be no Harry Grant. That'll be the only thing in the favour of the Broncos, and that's a big omission for the Melbourne Storm. He's out for 2 weeks in that suspension, so he comes back week 1 of the finals.
Well, let's bring on round 27. Billy, you have a good week, and we'll see you on Thursday night for Thursday Night Footy.
I look forward to it, Salty. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy. That's Billy Slater. I'm Peter Psaltis. This has been the Billy Slater Podcast. We do it each and every week, thanks to Tab. Have a great week, everyone.